Hello, guys. Tickets Video Productions. We continue our broadcast today, and Linsu, our guest tonight. Thank you for visiting us. Thank you for ready to answer our questions. We have got a lot of questions to you, and it's good when we can meet and we spoke just honest without any some think the people just to be open. With open is a good thing for everyone, I think. So, how are you today? How was your week? Was tell us, share everything.
Well, I mean, it's never a dull moment in the campaign world, right? So
That's right.
definitely, yes, a lot of things going on. And just making sure that the people get the message because, like, it's important. I'm running in District 106. Some people say they don't know where that is. So, I mean, for your listeners, if you live anywhere south of Broward on the East Coast, right, from Golden Beach, Aventura, Sunny Isles,
Aventuras.
all the whole cities, all the way down to Fisher Island. Um, that would be the area that I would be representing. So, for sure. But for all the listeners who are out there who are not in the district, like remember that if you're a Floridian, even though you can't vote for me, I can still vote for you. So, yeah, don't hesitate to reach out. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes, and people can ask the question regarding some, election
Hmm.
process and regarding Republicans and everything, and you can, just share your opinion because we here just to have a personal opinion from everyone. So let's
Hmm.
talk. Let's start to talk from the about energy depends and energy crisis here because it's very important thing. So Biden decided to just open our reserve, our strategy reserve, and sold every month till the 6 months. The 6 months is very interesting period because I mean the oil for the produce to the market to keep our prices on the gas not really high that level. 6 months, that exactly what the Congress is election, but it before it's a Senate election, which is also important for the Florida. Florida has, by the way, cheapest, I think the cheapest gasoline in the country, which is also we have to say thank you to our governor to support that. Biden created new taxes, 36 taxes at all, and plus 11 for the gasoline especially. For the gasoline especially. So I just wondering, elections done. In the Biden opinion, what's next? The price is going higher and higher if we vote for the Democrats. What's going on next? What do you think?
Well, I mean, transport is the foundation of all expenses, right? Like, basically, like you want your groceries, they have to be shipped over because they're not growing it in behind the supermarket. So, any produce, any meats, everything has to do with transport. So if transport goes up, then inflation is going to get worse. So I think they saw that, and therefore that's why they're proposing this whole new, this bringing out the reserves and approving that to alleviate the situation. But like now it's funny that like they want to put certain legislation in, right? With this whole green energy thing. I'm not supporting green energy, right? I don't think that it should be the forefront of everything. I think that there are other players in the world that are causing all this carbon emission. And if they want to crack down on that, they should go crack down on, like India and China. So basically, like if they're trying to force all of us, like right now, the whole fracking thing had just become so much more difficult, right?
Mhm.
Passing any kind of license to frack is like 140 days or something like that. It's like in some insane amount of days. I mean, in Texas, I think it takes 2 days. So I mean, there's a whole discrepancy inside of that. So with that said, then we get to look at like what is like after they alleviate that, now the states are trying to fix the problem, right? So they're trying to lighten the the tax on energy a little bit so that like it doesn't burden the consumer too much. So where they're trying to put something in and then trying to fix around it, and it doesn't work because the more you fix it, the more it gets tangled up with more legislation, more laws to put in, more restrictions for people. It's just it keeps going. So the first thing is like I think the government should really get out of the way and let things like happen the way that it does instead of restricting everything, every little thing that is being put in place or whatever the market is demanding. If you can imagine like all the fracking, all the energy involved companies, right? When they look at investing in that aspect, they see it as it's not worth it because of all the regulations and all the taxes that are being put in. Like, why bother? It's not a profitable business anymore. So, like, they're tying up everybody at the same time. They're trying to, inject more money into, and putting in things that, I mean, all of this is unnecessary if they didn't stop whatever President Trump had done, right? Making America energy independent. So it's one thing to go in and just like, I don't like this about that, and change it without really looking at the repercussions. So there's a whole, you know, side effect to whatever it is that they're doing.
So the Biden decided to sold out 1 million barrel per day, which is, it doesn't change anything everywhere, anything. Yeah,
How
but
much do we consume per day in America? I think like that.
so in general, on the United States, get 21 a million barrel per day. Can you imagine that? 21. But so regarding
Well, the
Florida,
point is that you know that what they're trying to do basically is they're trying to push this into the green energy world, right? And that doesn't get resolved in the next 6 months. It's not like, we have now we're going to roll out electric cars for everybody at, the same price as gasoline cars. It's like it's not a solution that is immediate right now. There has to be a transition in between those two things if they really want that to happen. But that's how they're trying to do it, is trying to make gas so expensive. And somebody was telling me, well, then we could all get Teslas. I'm like, no, we can't. I'm sorry. We can't all afford Teslas
so
right
the
now.
people does not understand what the energy not comes from the plug. It's we have to build some nuclear electric stations, and we have
Hmm.
to make the urine, which is the more pollutions for the environment, and we have to keep the leftovers from them. This is the another problem, and it's getting cost more expensive and more expensive for consumers.
Hmm.
Look what the European have the higher price, and that also depends from the dictators, from the Russia, for example, from Putin, oil and gas. But if you produce, for example, oil here in United States, Donald Trump say we just can send you the gas for free, because it's like the when we produce the oil, it,
Hmm.
it means that it's just like leftovers we can produce to you, and that is what can we do with that gas, because it's a lot of them. We have to do something with that. Biden have to stop that politic, and he has to create and make the oil from our soil, because we 15 months ago we can even export the gas and oil and everything, but now we just have that situation. What we're asking for the someone, please produce for us. We're gonna buy it for the money, some higher price. This is not really good. So I want to talk
Yeah,
to you.
from my understanding, like to import oil, gas and oil from Saudi Arabia is taxed less than whatever it is that we buy here that is made in America. So there's an interesting thought about that too. So yeah, okay, please continue. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
that's okay. And I want to talk about Florida, because the Florida has the even cheapest gasoline now. It's because of the Republicans do everything what they can do to keep that prices in a lower level for the consumers, for the Floridian, for people who live there. So, what is your opinion? What's going to be next? What can we do to keep that price lower than, at least lower than we can do this in that situation?
Well, this is like really like outside my pay grade because it is like Congress federal level, right? So what I see is if they don't come together and have a resolution that, like I was talking about earlier, which is like, how do we, if they really want to go green, how do we transition into that at this step in time, right? When we have this crisis where, I think they're supplying like 20% of American oil from Russia, and if we want to sanction them, we should really look at like what is it that like we can do right now, right? And that's lifting up all the regulations and all the crazy taxes that are being put on American oil and American energy. So if they don't do that and have a talk about like, okay, let's do this. What are we lifting up? What are we putting in? And if they want to sunset that sometime, that should be fine too. But, I mean, have some kind of conversation between them in terms of working things out. Right now, it's like you or me, like, my way or the highway. And that doesn't work. It doesn't work because the people that are squished in between my way or the highway is the consumers and 300 million people in this country. So, that doesn't work.
So what can we do on a Senate level? How can we help on a Senate level to keep the
You mean
businesses
for
up?
my position?
Yes, in your position.
So in my position in the state, what we could do is we can talk about like how much I think there's a conversation about that going on right now, which is like the state is going to um tax like lower the taxes for our energy so that the people don't get hit too hard with whatever it is that that is being imposed by the federal government. That's
Can
probably
we
the
not
most immediate.
accept that new 11 tax position supporting Biden for the oil? Can we just reject it on a local level?
I think we can advocate for it, but if they're taxing us, it's not like if we don't go along with that, I don't think that it would be sent to us. So that's one thing that I'm honestly like I am not entirely clear about how the federal government works
Just your
inside of these
opinion. Just your
energy
opinion.
taxes. I would love to have our governor reject it for sure,
Okay.
because some of those things are just absurd, right? And it's driving the economy down.
The main problem with that situation, that's embargo for the federal lands, and Irочка Fakhri, she's asking they need to
I
allow oil production on
Yes,
that.
I agree. Yeah, but see all those licensing and all the regulations that are happening, they can't do that for another 140 days unless they expedite that approval for these licensing. And then like all the taxes and all the regulations that they have to go through, all the precautions they have to put in to make sure that it's like green, then, these companies don't feel like it's worth it for them to actually do that. So it all comes dictates from, the upper levels in the federal government.
Okay, let's back to Florida. And Alice Williams, she's asking, hi, Lynn. Sure, your campaign covers quite a few things and it's so important to people to your district. And hopefully, you win that one issue that you would focus on the most.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much, Alice, for your question. And I saw that and I was like, wow, I can't wait to talk about it. Um, so my campaign covers a couple of things, and actually, I'm also open to your opinion about what you see, right? That's wanted and needed inside our district. So basically, like I would be your voice in Tallahassee. Let's say, I mean, I know there's a lot of conversations about beach renourishment. We have flood issues in this district, right? Like, how can we move that along and like create some legislation, get some funding to support that. Now, with that said, like the main focus where I'm at right now is parental rights.
Hmm.
I'm really for parental rights. I think that the parents should be teaching kids about, whether there's a same sex marriage happening somewhere. There should not be any indoctrination of our children. And this is coming from the Don't Say Gay bill, right? That is so popular right now. And it's not one word in there does it say don't say gay. It just says that please do not indoctrinate children under third grade to be listening to stories about same-sex marriage or whether they are a boy and should be a girl or
Because
can
they're
be a
too
girl.
young for that conversation.
Yes, they don't even have that. I mean, they're still innocent, like, and that's the thing that we really want to preserve. Your kids are only going to be like 7 years old once, 1 year, right? They're not going to be seven again.
Yeah.
So with that said, like if we rob the children of their innocence at that point, it's insane. It's absurd. They don't really get to be kids. We don't start talking about economy and calculus with our kids when they're like 6 years old. That doesn't make any sense. So I think parents should be in the know as long as the children are under their care and they are still their guardian and parent by law. They should have the right to say what's there and not. Now, the whole reasoning behind that is that I believe that with Florida growing so quickly with all the implants we're getting from different states, right? Definitely there's going to be more demand. There's going to be more business that is created. There's going to be more consumption. And what we want to make sure is we want to make sure that the economy is sound, right? That we don't have a shortage of anything, that things are humming and moving along. So it's very important to have a good workforce. So that's why I'm really driving for education to be at the forefront of this because we want our people to be skilled, and with that skill, we will attract more businesses to come here and it will supply to whatever it is that our people in Florida are actually needing and wanting. So, with that said, like education reform is actually my number one priority. The number two part is the economic opportunity that is available in the state. I want to make sure that the government gets out of the way and people actually get to do what they do best, which is compete with each other, bring prices, at a competitive right. Everybody makes money, consumers are happy. So that's the third one, and then and of course my third, that was the second one. My third one is about affordable and accessible healthcare. So anything that will forward that conversation, right? I don't believe in free healthcare because I think that Americans do disregard their health quite a bit. And with whatever it is, the food that they're feeding, with all the junk that they feed us, right?
Even that possible the free healthcare, because we got example in Canada, for example, and we see that situation is growing there. There are huge lanes, and there are also people who really need some, surgeries. They wait for a long of time, or even for the more than a year. Especially in the
Hmm.
COVID period, they told, "Oh, okay, we're shortage of the personnel, and we also, that's not important, just wait," and people, just the waste time, and so the lost health in the end of that situation.
Hmm.
How can you imagine it? I understand that everybody wants healthcare for free, but how it's even possible?
I think that if we open the market up and if it's affordable, when we look at something that is affordable, right, we don't really care whether it's free or not. So
That's right.
that's just in a nutshell, right? Anything that is affordable. Then when you start to feel like for example, there's down payment assistance programs for homes because the amount is just so large. So that's why they feel they need that assistance. But if you can afford something, it's absolutely, it's like why bother when you can pay, a lesser rate for insurance and you can get the coverage and see the doctors that you want to. But the problem that we have right now is the restriction that we have inside of like this cross line state shopping, right? Cross state line shopping, excuse me. So
Hmm.
basically, like they can't go out and find the best deal or the cheapest deal or they're only restricted to whatever is available here. And that has a lot to do with regulation. Now we get to find out what it is inside that regulation that we can maybe alter a little bit and like it might open things up and allow us to shop like corporations do. Like major corporations can shop anywhere, right? My company
Hmm.
based in Chicago shops for, healthcare insurance in other states, and so on and so forth. So they have that freedom. The other thing that I also want to put in is whatever money that you spend on healthcare should be tax exempt or should be pre-taxed. So that way that you can put that money in a savings account and then you take that money and you pay for anything that is healthcare related, and that should not be taxed. And that's a way that government can support its people to having them, be able to have that healthcare and accessibility to it.
That's a really cool idea without
Hmm.
taxation on that money, because some people has some accounts in a bank account, for example, which is not taxable for the medical.
Right. Hmm.
So another, let's back a little bit to the LGBTQ. Another question is, I agree with you 100%, and the position of Disney and despicable, in my opinion, on the boycott of Disney products is obvious, at least for my family and the friends. What else can we do to fight this?
I think Disney is not weighing out their odds very well, right? If you look at the amount of parents that say, okay, let's go to Disney versus the people that were on strike for saying, don't say gay, Like those people are not their customers, right? If we are market driven, right now it's politically driven. So when you look at something that's politically driven, right, it's always at like the green energy we were talking about earlier, the price of oil, the taxes and all that, the restrictions and regulations put inside of that. All of that is actually all political. And when we start to get political on daily life, like that's when things start to go to hell in a handbasket, right? So what we need to do is we need to get out of the way. And then like the Disney, there may be another organization that is for children, but when you have management level in Disney actually saying they cannot wait to put in, you know, um, to put in LGBTQ, you know, agenda inside of their movies and videos, and parents are going to
And they
stop
have a
that.
huge amusement park in Orlando
Hmm.
as well, and in Florida, by the way. Yeah, the same time.
Right. Yeah, and now with that, I mean, Disney should be looking into, the molestation that was happening in their parks, right, with some of their people that work there. There were kids, children that were molested and, in these parks. I mean, they should look at that. I think that's more of a safety issue. That's more of an important thing that they should look at least when they keep their parks safe. They know that like parents will trust and will be happy to take their children there. So if they're looking at that market and they're not looking at what parents want for their children, and they just want to drive a narrative and drive an agenda that is political, they are soon out to take a pretty big hit. And Alice, kudos to you, your friends and family for boycotting that, because that is probably the best way that we could do is we vote with our wallet. So, they and and I know that Disney was probably, I mean, if they have, Disney is too smart, right? They have movies that will pander to the Chinese market, right? Like, if something is going to be shown in China, it has to have a certain restriction. But here, it's because like we have freedom of speech, and they think they can abuse it in the sense that like they're actually adding things to their content that would be detrimental to our children.
That's right. Let's talk about business. The Florida has two type, I mean, major type, which is federal business and the local business, especially
Hmm.
in that COVID period that everybody needs to relieve. So I understand that Disney, it's like a huge business, would
Hmm.
support the White House agenda and get some foundation from them. So, what about the local business who located in Florida? Especially, that all of them need relief. That all of them need help. That COVID period is so affected with some restriction. They cannot use the 100% of the capacity for the restaurants, for small restaurants, for example, and they got some lost, some huge loss. From all of them, I mean, the most of them they got some some extra expressions, extra some they need some help with
Hmm.
that. What's on the Senate level can help for the local business in Florida?
Mm, in terms of helping the businesses, I think we should look into now. With that said, like there are certain. I think the state should definitely help. Let's put it that way first, right? There's a percentage of fraud, right? There's a percentage of fraud.
All right.
We should really find like look at how those businesses are operating and seeing how the state can support. And I would see it as somewhat of a hi Ella, and see it as I just lost my train of thought. Okay, so how can we support the businesses? Okay, I would say looking at
I mean, some of
taxation.
them really need it, but some of them
Yes,
don't
yes.
need
So
it.
we're
I
going to talk
understand
about
your
the majority of it, right? There's some fraud, but now the majority of the people definitely got hit hard, right? With the lockdown, with the restrictions of delivery only, or and the deliveries, like we have these major corporations, like not to be named, but all the food delivery places that charge these vendors at least 30%.
Hmm.
So whatever profit that they were making, right? They'd either have to add on money to that, or they would just have to go off and pay that amount of money and take the cut. And with these razor thin margins that they're operating out of, it's like we really, as a state, we really get to look at how can we support them in terms of perhaps like a tax reduction of some kind, right? And also getting rid of a lot of the regulations that are unnecessary and that are costing them this annual fees of whatever it is that we see in different types of businesses would be different as well. Hmm.
Understandable. But what about residents? Residents in Florida. Could you just share what is your opinion after the post-COVID period? How to help to get to normal life for the Floridan, or can we? I just rephrase my questions. Can we just return to the normal life? Because some of the politicians told us there is no more normal life we just expected from the past, because it doesn't happen anymore. There is new normal life coming up to us.
Well, I think Florida has been pretty normal for a long time now, right? We were normal since I think October 2019 even.
Right.
Right? I mean, there are still people who are afraid of COVID, and rightfully so, right? If you have a pre-existing condition that will exacerbate or have the virus cause you some serious like harm in your health, then you should really protect yourself. I think like anything, I believe in personal responsibility. I think that if you know you're immunocompromised in some way, or you have, if you're obese or you're diabetic, or like you have high blood pressure, you should take
Like a high
precautions.
risk level people.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Correct. Yeah, the high risk people. If you're in the high risk group, then you should really consult your physician and see what it is. I mean, I know a gentleman who's like 76, 78, right? He loves to go out and meet people, but he's always wearing a mask. He's always wearing a mask. He's like triple vaxxed. He had COVID, he got over it, and he's triple vaxxed, and he still wears a mask. And for me, it's like kudos to you, whatever makes you comfortable, right? And he's
Biden
still
get fourth boosted yesterday. He's quadra boosted already.
okay. So if we're quadra boosted, it might make us lose our memory. So maybe we shouldn't get it. Okay,
But this
that
is
was
the
not a
sign.
good
This
joke.
is the
Okay.
sign, because the people started to, he's asked for the Congress money for the force boosters for people who's older certain age. I forgot something 65 or 65 plus or something, or maybe 70. But it does not matter. He asked for additional money in the Congress for that, because every his step, this is about money. He wants more trillions from our budget.
Well, there's a prescription from the drug companies, so I think we have to. I'm wondering why we're not supporting the people on funding of there have been several doctors that came out with things that are preventative or are immunobuilding, like helping them raise their immune system, to a healthier level. Um, Going outdoors, having breathing fresh air and exercising, or eating right and things like that. Like, we haven't seen our country promote anything of that sort, which is kind of a shame. I think that this is going to be like any cold or flu even. I have it like it's an in between. It's just right. It's a little more severe than a cold, and a little less severe than a flu, but at the same time there are long-term effects to COVID. Now, with that said, we got to think about how can we raise our immune system so that our body can naturally fight that off, right? And actually, with the death of 2%, I think this is not a vaccinatable or vaccinate mandatory kind of disease. So, we can people do survive them. They are asymptomatic. There's so many different proofs and numbers and data that will prove that. So I would say we get back to our normal life. If you're in the high risk group, please protect yourself, right? Be safe. Don't get I mean, if you're sick, don't go out. If you're sick, make sure, people around you that were in contact with you know that you were sick. So, I mean, yeah, absolutely. People, less than 1% are wearing masks. And in Florida, as long as we have been free, there are people who are still wearing masks in the car driving by themselves. So, I mean, and I mean, if that makes them feel comfortable to come outside and do things, like, go for it, right? Like, for me, it's like, it's your choice. You decide what you want to do with your life, and I'm happy with that. So,
That's
but
right. And
but
also,
we could definitely get back to our normal life, though.
yes, and also even people who are in high risk have the high right to choice. You should make
Yes.
medical decision for individuals, and it's not supposed to be another mandatories for them.
Agree 100%. Yes. Everybody has the right to choose on how they take care of themselves, you know. And if, like, there's advisory on how to take better care of yourself, that would be great. And instead of, like, funding all these things, let's talk about, like, the quality of food that we're eating right now. So, I mean, that's a whole difference inside of what it is that we are dealing with right now.
Okay, I got personal questions to you. Do you follow in Tucker Carlson? Are you a follower him?
Well, I do watch him, yes.
Because I got question from Vova Adamchuk. He's asked you, hi Lynn, why Republicans like Tucker Carlson candidate or on Putin's side? Communism, his dream, create USSR 2.0. He is a retired KGB agent. That's probably about his the last opinion he shared in his opinion about the Ukraine and Putin situation. What do you think about the Tucker Carlson show and his statement?
Well, I think the creating the USSR 2.0 has always been on Putin's agenda, it seems. I think he's come out and said stuff like that. I mean, from the stuff that I read translated, you guys probably understand that more than I do, right? So, um, that's how I have it. This is already exist in existence. He's already created that he wants to annex and create USSR 2.0. He wants to leave his legacy, right? So that's something that, like, nobody can control. As far as how Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens are, where they stand inside of that, I'm not clear on that completely. I think that from my understanding, what I thought he was saying was that, like, whatever happens in Ukraine should not be our business per se. That now I'm just paraphrasing, and I haven't listened to him, like, closely, like, lately, but basically, like, from what I'm hearing in these little clips on YouTube is, he's saying that, like, we shouldn't intervene with that because America has enough problems right now. If it comes down to our doorstep. But we know that, like, once he gets Ukraine, there's going to be more and more and more, and it's going to keep expanding and growing, right? Because, look, he annexed Crimea, like, back in the day, in, like, 2000, I don't know, a couple years back, right, in the Obama years. And then he touched,
2014.
yeah, and he touched nothing after that. Well, actually, he did everything during the Obama administration. And then during the Trump administration, Putin was, like, silent. Nothing happened because America was, like, militarily strong. We were energy independent.
Because
He was
America was
actually,
first, not the last, like
yes.
the Biden.
So I think that if it was anything at all, I think Tucker Carlson's stand and Candace Owens' stand would most likely be in that realm, where if we make America strong and independent and powerful, then all of these things will go away. Not that, like, it doesn't matter that Ukrainians are getting killed by the dozen, right? Or, like, I don't assert that he's that irresponsible to communicate that on TV. So, but as for, like, supporting Putin to create a USSR 2.0, I don't think anybody wants that because we know what he does to the people. It's not so much like how it affects people outside, but his own people. I mean, can I say that, like, most of the Russians that have immigrated to America is exactly to run away from that kind of regime,
That's exactly right.
right?
Yes.
So, I mean, like, why would we want to condone that kind of behavior? So definitely that's what I see. So I don't know about what his underlying Tucker Carlson and Candace's underlying messages are, but what I think he's trying to look at is he's looking at putting America first, making America strong, and then we pacify all of the craziness that's going on. Then we can really deal with the real bad guy, which is like, the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah, and everybody's behind the scene. The Chinese Communist Party is behind the
Hmm.
scene. Everybody see they're just watching for the situation and make the personal, decision what's they gonna do next. What's the next step of the Chinese Communist parties? Uh,
Well, I mean, I think the Chinese Communist Party is throwing Russia like a piece of meat to the lions, and you know what I mean?
that's
Let's see
true.
what happens, and then like, oh shoot, okay, no, that didn't work.
Because it's too huge, predators, and yeah, we're just watching in the first row, movies here.
It's like testing out the waters. Okay, that doesn't work. Let's back up.
So, Lynn, I just drive around Aventura, drive around that territory, the neighbors, and I see a lot of the free spaces, the business spaces, which is available.
Hmm.
Does that mean we just back to the local business? The business is not really, on a higher level after that whole pandemic period and everything like that, because there are a lot of space, the free stores, for the
Hmm.
restaurants, they're still there. Do you
Yeah,
think that's a problem and how to figure out it?
there are still certain business. Okay, so during the pandemic, we discovered that like, oh, we can work from home, right? Like, I mean, I didn't like going into
Which
my
is good,
office.
which is
Yes,
not really
absolutely.
bad, because for certain part of the people who doesn't need to go to the office and keep the time, and also not wasted for time for and money
Traveling.
for commute. Yeah.
Right, right. I mean that was really I mean the pandemic was as detrimental as it was to, a lot of people losing their family members and a lot of people who have passed away during that, but we opened up a lot of doors that we never saw before, right? So one of those doors is like, children getting indoctrinated at schools. When they were doing their Zoom classes, their parents were like, "What are you learning?" Um, and the other part of it that you see is absolutely like, oh wow, the job can be adapted to work from home. So I would assert like a lot of those like administrative type offices where people can actually be on the phone, send emails, and have that kind of proof.
And
It's
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 almost 3 years already.
I
It's just
know.
like this, yes, but it's three already years.
Hmm. So with that, like opening up, like that actually allows for a lot of these retail spaces, right, to be left vacant. Um, I think that there are some other businesses that will take its place. There would be other things that could use that space. It probably won't die. However, like if you're thinking about the overhead cost, right? There's definitely an overhead cost when there is brick and mortar. So if you have brick and mortar shops, like I think that it would work for restaurants really well, right? That's what I could see, like service places that people can actually go in for a service. So that would probably be an adjustment period. So there's that, and there's also, like I said, like is it better? Is it costing them less? And is it like less problems to not have a brick and mortar? Or versus like, is it better to have a storefront? So, I mean, like, all of these things have to take into consideration. So, to bring back that, it's also having to do with like, what if rent went down because nobody was actually renting anymore and they're working from home? Rent would come down and would allow like companies or businesses that actually need that storefront to be able to afford it. So we might consider like whatever is going on right now with the cost of real estate. Everything has been so overinflated. Like even renting now is super expensive, right?
Yeah.
Renting a home now is like, I mean, you can't find anything in Sunny
That's
Isles under
another
two
side
thousand
of that
dollars for
story.
like.
And it's growing up, and there is no available apartments for the
Hmm.
people in my building. For example, the friend of mine asked if there are any available apartments for the rent, and I go to the management, ask them, they say no, we have no available even apartment, but it's two towers and the 35 buildings, by the way. Yeah. Hmm. See, and around also the same situation. When you call to the management any apartments, they probably say we have no apartments available in a, we just can put you on a waiting list, but you
Hmm.
should wait. I don't know, maybe months, maybe two, maybe six even to get the available apartment, and we not give you any guarantee.
Hmm. Yeah. So it's, I mean, like, it needs to naturally adjust, right? So right now you could hear certain like municipalities also talking about like providing rent support, if you're not making enough money. I agree with that, right? Because there are people who cannot go back to work for one reason or another. Um, but if the market drives the price, then it will eventually come down. Like right now, because in the 2 years that mortgage rates have been going down, people have been purchasing. When they purchase, the price of the houses go up, right? So this is in my field here that I do. Um, so with all of that like in place, it actually caused people who to buy at higher prices wanting to rent at higher prices. So the rent also goes up. Now, like right now, and this is all facilitated with the Federal Reserve decreasing rates. So artificially, we have increased our cost of living in Florida for no reason, right? Prices of homes went up 23%. That's insane. That's a lot of money.
It is. It is a
Hmm.
lot of money, and also the people also afraid of the getting the rent up. Yeah, what you mentioned,
Hmm.
because our paycheck is not getting up, and we spend more
We
and
did
more
not get
money on
23%
construction.
a raise last year.
Absolutely, even
Right?
when
I mean, like I know people who are paying like $1,200 for rent and now having to pay 26. That's more than double.
yes,
So it's crazy, like however this is going, and like I said, all of this is inside of like somebody trying to manipulate the market and not letting the market do its thing, right? If you know that like everybody else is renting for $1,200, how can you be renting for 26? It doesn't make any sense. So that's something that like we have to like really get out of the way and let things happen. Otherwise, like we're going to start to live in this artificial bubble, right? Like where everything is costing way more than it's supposed to. And, we don't take care of energy. That's the source of it, right? All the transport is costing so much money. It's just like one thing after the next. And every time when there's a problem, the government tries to go in and fix it because they just want more control. And the
that's
more
another
we,
problem which has raised even more
right.
price.
Yeah, because they want to do is like, "Oh, how do we fix this? Let's print out more money and let's fix it."
By
Like,
create 11 more taxes on a gasoline, for example. Yeah, this is the good solution.
wait, didn't he like come out with like a 5.6 or 5.8 trillion dollar plan like
Mhm.
recently? I think
Yes,
there's a new plan, a new spending plan. It's like,
the new budget.
I mean, like we don't make money as easily as Hunter Biden does. So, I mean, he has to take in consideration that we have to exchange our labor and time for it, you know?
But what can we do? We can go and we stop Democrats for the Senate. We can stop Democrats for the Congress. We can stop what Democrats do for us, going and voting for the Republicans.
Yes, I mean, definitely, we see that trend happening a lot. I think 40 some congressmen and women have decided not to run again. So, you know, not run for reelection. And you know that there are no term limits, right? If they can stay there forever and become a fossil in the House, they would do that. But a lot of people have decided not to run, knowing the current climate of the political situation of what Democrats are doing right now, and they do want you to align. Like right now, I feel for Democrat candidates actually, because they have to vote in the party narrative and the party line. So if the party says this, that's why, remember when they were trying to vote in that new budget and Joe Manchin and Kristen
Christian
Sinema voted
cinema.
right. So they voted against it and they were just condemned, right? But I mean, they live in a purple and very red area. You can't have them like, vote something like that and like betray their people. So that's the thing. It's like really look at, who you're, first of all, to stop all of this spending craziness, right? First, you understand why we shouldn't have the government inject so much money into it. Second, you have to understand that, like, government can't solve our problems, because if government can solve our problems, it would have. And like most governments that solve our problems is just getting out of our way. So if we let them get out of our way, but if the government says, no, we want to be in your way, we want to force you to get a vaccine, we want to force you to wear a mask, we want to force you to do everything, we want to force you to pay taxes. Now they're going to ask us to pay taxes on unrealized gain. So, you know what? If your house went up in price, I'm sorry, you're getting taxed on that. Like, that's absolutely crazy. So, I mean, what you could do first and foremost, I would absolutely recommend is, you know, write to your congressman or woman, right? Congressman or woman who is in your district, and say, please vote no on this. We don't want any more taxes for our next generation. Here we are spending time to like make sure that our children are growing up healthy in a country that we believe is free. At the end of the day, we become slaves to taxes. We become slave to debt. And debt, not just our debt, like we have federal debt. Right now, I mean, not enough that we have student loans to pay for, most kids do, right? Now they have to pay the federal government's debt, because the federal government doesn't make any money. They make money off of you. So if they are using your money to go pay off that debt, you got to tell them, like, no more debt, my sweetheart. Like, we're done. Like, we don't need to do that. So what I'm saying is that, like, with the whole political climate going on right now, like, we really have to start, you know, pulling the weeds. These weeds have roots that are like so deep. They've been in Congress for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And if you don't take this out and put in people who are grassroots, put in people who are experiencing the daily effects of all this crazy legislation, only these people who have the pain understand how to get rid of it, right? People who are sheltered by this, meaning like they're sheltered because they make a lot of money. They don't have to worry about, taxes or rising prices of milk and food and bread. Um, how can they understand? How can they understand how what we're dealing with? So basically, that's what I plead for you is like really get the word out, have people look into their candidates, make sure that like ask questions, go to their town hall. Like if they're doing a radio show like this, like please come in and ask questions and talk and like pry and dig, find out who the person who's going to represent you is going to be like, and make sure that they will be standing for your agenda and the future of your children, because whatever is happening now was a cause and effect of whatever had been legislated decades ago. So you could see that, right? Only certain things can take action right away. I mean, like energy is taken, you can see that energy was taken action right away the minute Biden came in, took out everything that Trump had built, and then now that's where we're at. So it does affect us. Be careful who you vote for.
No, that's very right. And keep calling to your representative, to your congressman, congresswoman, and ask the questions and share your opinion, what you're good with, what was not good for work for you, for your family, for your neighborhood, because it's our, continued job to control that candidate who just win and who represented you in the Senate and the Congress and
Right.
wherever, in your school board. You have to control that, because nobody but you.
Hmm.
That's a good answer. We got
Yeah,
a
but
couple
we have to
questions.
come in. We have to come in numbers, right? Like you can't just like have one or two people like writing emails to them or calling them. Everybody's got to, we got to work together as a team here. The more numbers that they see, and especially if you are their constituent, meaning you live in their district, like they have to really care about what you think. Like I went to the school board and spoke, right? And spoke about something. And I noticed like there's not going to be any change. But there's no threat to them because it's only me, one person. All right. Yes.
That's right. Yeah,
So
got
what are the questions?
a couple questions. Yes. So the one of them, I do feel bad for them. So the lack of integrity and accountability of your elected politicians is what into current mess.
Hmm.
Another one, El Eliachi, that the problem they do not have voting limit. And also, just continue, Ella, continue. Look at Pelosi. She wants to stay forever in the Congress, for example. Yes, she is.
Well, I mean, like, her
And there is
consistent.
no really tools to how to remove her from the Congress.
Well, you know what? It's the people in her district that are voting her in. So that means that she's doing something for them that they like, right?
Yeah,
And
the San Francisco district, right? Yes.
right. So I mean, that's you have to live with that. But what I'm trying to say is that, like, what about the congressmen and women that we select here in Florida, right? If we can outnumber them, when Pelosi's in the minority, like, she can't do much. Right now, we're like, they're still in the majority. So whatever they vote, they're gonna get it. So, if we don't, we have to have whoever our president will be, right? Which I don't know who, right? If he has good support from his House and his Senate, then definitely he can get things passed quickly. So you saw what happened, right? Just in recent history, right? Um, when President Trump wanted to pass certain things, right? There were, like, when he passed the tax cut in the first 2 years. So he was able to do that because we had the majority. Now, we don't have the majority anymore, and the Democrats have the majority. So we really got to look at
Hope things
how we're going to
change
tip the
in the
scale.
future. Yeah.
Yes. Now, that's also, something that we have to look at, is that, like, we have good decision makers. There's no point in us having the majority when we don't know what the f we're doing, right? In terms of, like, how we're going to what needs to get done. If they're not clear on what needs to get done, and they just take the majority and be happy about, like, voting in certain people and doing certain things, and it's not affecting our daily lives, then there's no point. And that's the thing. I think government is involved in too many things that are completely unnecessary, that has nothing to do with American lives that they are representing, and that's where we're going with that. Like, did we resolve certain issues, like with hate crime? Like, there's a rise in anti-Semitism here in America, right? Like, that gets to be addressed. Why don't we talk about, certain things like that, right? There's still issues with, like, our law enforcement not being respected, and not being able to protect us fully because of all the rules and regulations. I mean, there's so many things, definitely. So we have to know, I mean, we have to voice what it is that's important to us. That's what my final word would be.
I'm thinking about the last rally, Trump's rally, and he was with Matt Gaetz from the Florida representative unit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Matt
Yes,
Gates.
and he's mentioned. I don't think this is the random his random thing about Trump for the Speaker of the House. He said that will be the great if you gonna be Speaker of the House. And I know so many politics talked about that as well. He's not. This is okay. Here's the situation. Trump for 2024, it's just like a deja vu. It looks like for the deja vu, but for the representative of House, it is gonna be great. So, what do you think? Why Matt Gaetz mentioned that on the rally with Donald Trump? Just your opinion. Just keep guessing.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I mean, that the Speaker of the House is number three in line, right? So there's the president, the vice president, and then the third person. So what I thought was, I think he mentioned that he wanted Trump to run in 2022 as a House of Representative, like, a House seat. And if he won the House seat, then he could go in and be the majority leader, right? Which is like what Pelosi is today for the Democrats.
Hmm.
And then, we know, uh, there's a lot of speculation about our current president having, mental issues, like he's not
Cognitive, yes, I
cognitive
know.
issues. Yeah. So he
Mhm.
has he has certain things that look unstable, right? And then, like, we don't know what's going on with the vice president, but
But see, we're talking with you without flashcards. Yeah, I see my flashcards here. But we're talking without flashcard. But Biden, he even got press conference with outlets, and he got flashcards.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for
How
bringing
can
up
I?
the flashcard.
Oh, this is my flashcard. But I
Thank
really
you for
don't use
having that.
it.
Uh-huh. So, so that's just so that's something that I think it's a silly idea because he was the president, right? And I don't think that that there would be. Oh, Ella said that Matt Gaetz wants to replace Pelosi.
Yeah, this is also very, yeah, why not?
Well, I mean, I think he's a very straight up conservative kind of guy. I like Matt Gaetz a lot. I don't know. I mean, there's inside of politics, of course, there's always more politics, right? So there's like seniority, someone who has been there, and there's like, I mean, like, I think there's like a whole pay off each other, I don't know, whatever, right? Like, I'm not there. I don't know the truth about it all, but basically, like, to get to the House seat, like, there's a price for it, I'm sure. Now, with that said, like, it's a nice idea, because if we could prove, like Joe Biden not being cognitively, sound, and Kamala not being sound, period. I mean, then Trump becomes president by default, in that way, and with the 25th Amendment. So it's a great idea, but I doubt it's going to happen. It's yeah,
We'll see. Nobody knows what's gonna happen.
that's true. That's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
but this
But
is
I
the
mean,
good
like, I
way.
think I think the media would be really happy if Trump were to get elected for anything, right? Because their ratings would go up.
They cannot live without it. Without Trump. I mean, they need Trump. See, that's already more than a year. Trump is not a politician. I mean, just generally, he is not going to politics. He just started his rally a couple months ago.
Right,
But
right.
the outlets, media just keep talking about Trump, 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 Trump. They said, where is the Trump?
No, I
He's
mean, like,
not in the house anymore. Just, stop talking about
oh,
him. Give him some,
I know, some
time for
privacy,
rest.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, some privacy. Just stop do this.
absolutely. Yeah. Hmm.
So, Lynn, I just thinking about you. You're running for the politicians. Pretty much, this is swap. Like a Donald Trump said, this is the really swap. We have to do something with that. I wish you good luck, and I keep to see you next week. I hope everything is not changed. Thank you so much for being with
Before
us.
I go, I want to ask something from your listeners. So,
Okay.
if you're living in the district of 106, what I'm planning to do is I'm planning to have like these coffee meets. So, like, I can stop by a coffee shop somewhere around in your area, in our neck of the woods here,
Hmm.
and have coffee with you and talk to you directly instead of just, I mean, I thank you for liking my laugh, and thank you, Alice, for always coming and enjoying our conversation here and asking really great questions, both of you and Vovo, is it? Yeah, everybody. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening today. But what I'm looking at is I'm looking to like really meet you in person and have you bring your friends to come and meet me. So, if you have friends and family who are also voters in the district and you'd like to meet me and make sure that, you're going to be voting for the person that you want to have represent you. And you know that I will advocate for your values and I will stand on principles and be in integrity with my word for what I'm giving you. So I'm planning on having those. If you would like to email me and let me know, right, what place I can meet you at, right, where we can actually like go talk at some coffee house, whatever. That's something that's very important to me to really get to know my constituents and have everybody close to me. My email is up on the screen. It's lynn@linsu.com. Okay. Just send some recommendations so that we can call those coffee places and say, hey, you know what? We're going to go have a talk at your place and like, so people can come by and then we can advertise it so other people can come join us too. It's important to me that like I really hear you and hear you like, firsthand and not through poll or the
That's a
news.
very good idea to have a, just to meet personally, because you can share everything, you can ask, you can spend more time to see
Hmm.
each other, to see the eyes and contact and ask. It's
Yeah,
very good. That's why we
absolutely.
created our also meetings, and we invited you as well. And the next time we're gonna meet, so just let's do this. We just spend a lot of time when we virtually just discuss about something, but if there's some opportunity to meet personally, such a great idea. Yes, and
Thank
Ella
you.
said, yes, that's a great idea. Thanks. Yeah.
And thank you. Is it Aroshka? Aroshka?
Irочка Fahri said,
Aroshka.
Lynn, you're simply the best.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, you
And
guys
I
are so
agree.
encouraging. Thank you. It keeps me going. Talking to you on this show, and Nick, thank you so much for having me over today. It's really encouraging. It makes me know that I'm in the right. I'm walking in the right path because, like, my ideas are resonating with you. Um, we agree on things, and I want to hear more. So definitely shoot me an email of a place that you think would be a good place to meet. I can use that place like on a regular basis. Maybe we meet there once a week, for like, I don't know, half an hour, just to talk and get through with each other. So get through to each other and understand each other more. Okay.
Great
So
idea, Lynn. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. See you next week. Thanks. Bye.
thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Lynn.
Stay.